All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College Application and Website Development, or AWD1111, Database-Driven Web Development course, I'm doing a series of video presentations. Most of these have been from the Valley of Code, which is from Mr. Flavio Copes, and so far I've gone through his HTML handbook, his CSS handbook, his JavaScript handbook. I went and added some of my own stuff, and then I went through Mr. Brad Traversy's Web Dev Guide, and now I am in his Node.js handbook. There are 161 pages in here, and I'm, somewhere between a third and a halfway through. All right, and we left off over here last time. Browser list are the list of browsers you want to support. I've never filled that in. Command-specific properties. All right, it says there are some things like Babel, and Babel we'll talk about in class, or we should. It's a tool that you can use to convert and make Java code from like ES6 and beyond work in older browsers. ESLint, which is basically a syntax checking. Package versions. And there is a whole big thing on here if you want to know what the caret there means as opposed to what the tilde means, etc. And it says these are the rules. So if we take a look here, as it says when you are working with this stuff, let me make that there we go. The first digit that you see in something like this is the major version. So remember, we are, for example, we are running in our NPM. If I do an NPM -v, it says that we are running 8.11.0. So 8 is the version, 11 is the minor version, and 0 is the patch version. So these are the different symbols that you can use in here. All right? So if you use the caret, basically it says it will only do updates that do not change the leftmost version number. All right, so the thing before the first period. If you use a tilde when running update, it can update the patch release. And you can see the other ones. I'm not going to sit and read these to you. Typically what's going to happen when you go in and you start to set this stuff up yourself and you create the package.json file, what is at least supposed to happen is the system should come through here and it should look and try to give you the latest and greatest of each thing that you attempt to install. All right. Package.lock.json, as I mentioned, that's what typically has these different symbols in here. So what it has, as it says, was introduced back in version 5. The goal, as it says here, is to keep track of the exact version of every package that's installed so that a product is 100% reproducible in the same way, even if packages are updated by their maintainers. And again, it goes back to these different symbols that are in there. So it says this is an example structure of a package.lock that you get when you install the npm install Kause. All right, and that's a lot of junk. Now, you might say, okay, do I need to understand that? The answer is typically no. But what you must understand is that if you come up and you get errors in your code when you're trying to run it, and the errors appear to be related to the version of the package or a package that you've got loaded, you've got to be able to track those down. And that's what they talk about in here. Find the installed version of an NPM package. Well, let's try that. It's npm list. And what does it say? Well, if we take a look here, it says that we've got loaded in here Cowsay, Express, Lodash, and NodeMod. And it shows us the version of each one of those. All right. You can also just open the package lock JSON, but as it says, it involves a little bit more visual scanning. You could put a list -G. If we do that, this should come up, I would think, and be empty. Because there's nothing that I've added well, I guess there is some stuff that has been added. Now, I didn't add this, but it's stuff that I've added earlier at other times. My guess is when you try to run this, you'll probably not have anything in yours. All right, let's continue on. You can install an older version of a package, and as I mentioned before, the reason that you may want to do something like that is there can be something where if a new version of a package has been set up and that's the one that you have and it's newer than the version that you were using when you first created the application, it is not beyond the realm of possibility that something that's been put into a new version of a package could break what you had in there earlier. All right. If you want to update everything to its, newest version, you can do that. To discover any package releases, you can type in npm outdated. Again, to update everything to the latest version, I would just say npm I npm-check-updates. All right, we can run that. It's not going to hurt anything. But again, I'm going to come back in here and let me clear this. And I'm going to paste this in, but I don't want the -G, and I only want an I in there, like that. All right. And it says added 290 packages, but it went through and basically it looked through and it saw anything that was old and it tried to update it. Okay. If there's one thing great in Node.js packages is that they all agreed on using semantic versioning for their version numbering. Again, you've already seen this. The first version is the major. First digit is the major version. Second digit is the minor version. Third is the patch version. So as it says, when you make a new release, you don't just up a number as you please, but there are rules. Notice that if you up the major version, all right, that's probably when you're most often going to introduce incompatibilities between your program, the way that it was working and the way that it works now. Okay. NPM has set up some rules you can use in the package.json to choose which versions you want to update. Those are the symbols we talked about before. You want this in more depth and breadth of coverage than probably I'm giving you. You can take a look at that. All right. Just as you can install a package, you can uninstall the package. So for instance, if I come back into here and where I had put, let me close my package.json. And in here where I put that console log, I'm a Moodle thing. I'm going to remove this. All right. And where I've got the Cowsay right here, I'm going to remove that. Now, if I go in and look, if I go in and take a look in my node modules, you're going to see that Cowsay is still in there. All right. It's not in my program, but it's still in my node modules file. So I'm going to save this, and now I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say npm uninstall Cause, and hit enter. And it comes back, and now it may look like Cause is still here, but if I go back and bring it up again, so if I come back in and find my package, my node modules, and I go back up to the top, well, it looks like Cause is still here, but it shouldn't be there. It should have been uninstalled, and really all I should have to do is refresh. And now let's see if Cause is gone. And you'll notice that it is. Okay? There are NPM global packages and NPM local. The majority, if not virtually everything that we will do in here will be done locally. Some people choose to install NodeMon globally. I'm not sure what the advantage of that is. But local packages are installed in the directory where you run the program from, and global are put, where I showed you before when we ran that command. In your code, you can only require local packages. All right, so in general, again, all packages should be installed locally, and that's how I do it. A package should be installed globally when it provides an executable command that you can run from the CLI when it's used across projects. Okay, here are some global ones. NodeMon is the only one that I've ever done that way, and I'm not even doing it like that anymore. You probably have some package installed globally already on your system. You can see them. I showed you them before. We could try that if we need to as a class. You may have that. You may not have that. I don't know. All right. NPM dependencies and dev dependencies. We've already talked about this. When you install a package, all right, you install it as a dependency. So what it does is not only does it install that package, but any other package that's dependent on that package. All right. When you install it with a -d flag, it gets installed as a development dependency. When you don't, it's a non-development dependency. All right. This npx, and it's got here, npx is a very powerful command that's been available since 2017, sorry. It says if you don't want to install npm, the Node Package Manager, you can install npx as a standalone package. Now, it says npx lets you run code built with Node.js and publish through the npm registry. All that's true. With that said, we will use npx when we are creating our React applications later. All right? All right. Where am I here? We're fine. Easily run local commands, as it says here. Node.js developers used to publish most of their executable commands as global. This was a pain because you cannot really install different versions of the same command, and you can fix that, like you say, with these npx. I'm not even going to worry about this stuff. All right, and again, they're trying to sell you npx in here. There's nothing wrong with using npx. I'm going to show it to you the way that I learned it. Now, good, bad, or indifferent, much of the stuff that I learned, I'm self-taught, whether that's right or wrong. So what I'm telling you is, I'm telling you what I consider is to be the best way of doing this. All right. The next thing that's discussed in here is the Node.js event loop. Even though it's a little bit early, this is a totally different type of concept. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to pick it up here with lesson 28 out of 49 in a couple minutes, talking about the Node.js event loop.